We've seen a range of famous MMA fighters enter the boxing ring over the last few years, with various levels of success and less than. This is not a video about why some fighters are more successful in switching over than others. Obviously, a fighter who spent a lot of his time in the cage trying to wrestle is going to struggle more than a fighter with a prolific knockout record when both switching over to boxing. On top of this, who they end up fighting is a big factor in how successful they were or were not. This is a video about the 4 most common obstacles I believe any person training at any level in MMA will face when or if they try to make a switch over to boxing. Reason number 1. Pace management. In MMA, a standard non-title fight is 3 5-minute rounds. When you add in the 1-minute breaks, you get 17 minutes of ring time, 29 for a title fight. A 12-round boxing fight, on the other hand, with 3-minute rounds, results in 47 minutes of ring time when you include the breaks. An MMA fighter can expect to spend more than twice as much time in a boxing ring as you would in an MMA cage. So fighters conditioned for 17-minute fights with 2 breaks have a totally different sense of pace management compared to a boxer who's used to nearly 50 minutes of ring time with 12 breaks. It's like taking a 400-meter sprinter and throwing them straight into a marathon. The running ability isn't the problem, it's the pacing, and we've seen this play out. Jake Paul knocked out both Tyron Woodley and Mike Perry in the 6th round, after they had passed the 25-minute mark, well beyond what most MMA fighters are conditioned for. Even Anderson Silva became noticeably inactive against Paul by round 6. In conclusion, boxing demands a completely different rate of energy expenditure, and understanding that is absolutely crucial for any MMA fighter hoping to cross over, both from a cardiovascular and muscular endurance perspective, which brings me nicely onto point 2. Reason number 2, landing cleanly. The size difference of the gloves in boxing versus MMA results in 2 big changes. Firstly, the surface area of your target is hugely diminished. Boxing gloves cover more of the face and body than MMA gloves, making it really easy to slide through punches in MMA when compared to boxing. Secondly, is they are far more padded. You can absorb higher impacts much safer in boxing versus MMA. The result of this is that many MMA fighters overestimate how easy it is to land cleanly, especially in the pocket when it comes to boxing. With a reduced amount of open space to hit in boxing, typically boxers have many more techniques, strategies and systems to break through guards and land effectively in the pocket when compared to MMA fighters, resulting in a much higher volume of punches thrown in boxing when compared to MMA, and MMA fighters typically being at a loss on how to effectively land against good boxers, especially in the pocket. Reason number 3, punch durability. We know that the volume of punches thrown in a boxing match is much higher than that of an MMA match, typically around 4 times as much. On top of this, the weight of an MMA glove at 4 ounces is much lighter than the typical weight of a boxing glove at 8 to 10 ounces, making it almost 100 to 150% heavier. Increasing your punch volume by up to 4 times what you would normally throw in an MMA fight, plus doubling the weight on your arms, makes a huge adjustment to any MMA fighters that they simply do not account for, finding themselves fatigued in later rounds, both being unable to throw with conviction, but also not being as defensively sound as your arms begin to weigh heavy on you as the fight goes on. It's key that the conditioning of your arms is accounted for when making the transition over from MMA to boxing. Reason number 4, distancing. Most MMA fighters stand much further away from their opponents versus the average boxer. This is because just outside of boxing range is still very dangerous for an MMA fighter, where takedowns and kicks are still a threat. Therefore, most MMA fighters are used to operating from much further out and having to cover distance through a range of threats before boxing is even an option. Additionally, in close quarters, clinching, grappling and elbows become a threat. Looking at Tyron Woodley in the UFC versus Lawler and Tyron Woodley in the boxing ring against Jake Paul, we can clearly see the difference in the distances that they're operating at. Many MMA fighters therefore struggle to operate from this new boxing distance when making the transition, as they're both used to attacking and defending from much further out and really struggle to make this adjustment. Looking at Jake's many knockouts against MMA fighters, we can see how uncomfortable they were at this boxing safe range that Jake was able to come into and cause problems. Hopefully, if you are an MMA fighter looking to take a boxing fight at any level, I really hope that some of this will be really useful in considering when you are preparing and making that transition.